everybody. I love to see so many folks here. My name's Anna Palmer. I'm the CEO and one of the founders of Punchbowl News. I want to welcome you to a summit focused on the future of agriculture. A big thank you to PepsiCo for partnering with Punchbowl News to make programming like this possible, especially on such an important topic. This afternoon, we've got a great slate of conversations. We're going to have Representative Nikki Budzinski, the Democrat from Illinois. She's going to talk news of the day. There's actually a ton of news happening in the egg world, so we're going to get to that, as well as what's happening in Illinois and the future of agriculture as she sees it in her district. After that, I'm going to be joined by Stephen Williams, EVP and Vice Chairman of PepsiCo, and Katie Floming, Vice President and Operations Manager of New Miller Farms. And we're going to do a fireside chat. And then after that, we are going to round out the day with an industry expert panel that my colleague Andrew Desiderio is going to moderate. As always, you can find Punchbowl News on all social media at Punchbowl News. We encourage you to share this conversation. We want it to not only be engaging here in the room, but on the live stream, of course, and on social media as well, to continue to tell the story that is so important. And with that, I'm going to welcome the Congressman to the stage. Hi, all right, thank you. All right. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me. It's great to see a room full of people wanting to talk about agriculture.
Well, we're going to get a few news of the day questions to start. There's no shortage of that, of course, here in Washington. We were talking backstage a little bit about the Department of Homeland Security continuing to be shut down. TSA workers, the long lines at airports. I know this is kind of a Senate conversation right now, but what are your colleagues telling you? Do you think something's gonna get done before the end of the week?
Yeah, well, I'm hoping something can get done. I mean, first and foremost, what's top of mind are obviously the TSA workers that are now, I think, on their second week of being asked to work without pay. The federal workforce as a whole has just been through the ringer over this last year and a half. And so we want to see them get paid. We actually, as House Democrats, I signed a discharge petition, something that we've utilized as a tool in the House, to say that we do believe, look, we have DHS funding. There are elements of DHS where we have no issues, TSA being one, Coast Guard, FEMA. We should pay those folks. The issues are obviously with ICE and CBP and negotiating reforms around how those folks are doing their jobs. And so I think that's really important. We want to move forward with paying them. You're right, Anna. It's in the House, or in the Senate, I should say. So we'll see if negotiations get some kind of breakthrough this week. I hope so.
And obviously we are heading up to a recess. Nothing more that Congress loves than a spring recess, Easter recess. Right. Do you think, should you guys stick around until a deal is reached, or is it all right? You know, I mean, obviously it's the Senate and then the House will come back, but that they should stick around?
I think we should be around. I think we should. I think we're expected to do our jobs. I think we're expected to have a fully functioning government and be a part of helping to make that happen. So I think being around would help us hopefully accomplish that. But you know, your guess is honestly as good as mine as like where things stand with the Senate, what ends up happening with the House.
I want to ask you another question about Iran. The Iran War Powers vote got pulled in the House. What's the status of that? Do you think that there's more potentially lawmakers who would support that at this point?
Well, I mean, the Democrats, again, we did a discharge petition. You're hearing a theme here on the War Powers Resolution where, you know, we feel very strongly that the president, yes, should have come to Congress to discuss what I think looks like for a lot of the constituents I represent at home, like war on TV. And that this was something that we should have been consulted with. But even putting aside process, I think even more disturbing for us is that we just don't see, even though I participate in classified briefings, what's the plan? What was the imminent threat? What's our plan to get out? These are big questions. And I think the War Powers Resolution that we signed onto in the House, from at least the House Democrat perspective, was our way of saying we don't support what this president is doing until we get more answers. So I'm hoping we can continue to use that as something that continues to elevate these really important questions that I think the American people still need answers to on this war.
And it's been kind of interesting. We were reporting today about Republicans now in the House and in the Senate saying they need to hear more from this administration. Are you hopeful that there'll be some public hearings happening soon?
Well, look, I think what you're hearing, too, is that there's the possibility of a supplemental coming to Congress. And so that in and of itself is going to require a lot more robust conversations. I in no way could be supporting a supplemental right now without some very basic foundational questions as to what we're doing over there, what our goals are again. So I think it is, kind of reassuring to hear that those on the other side of the aisle are starting to raise these same questions. So maybe we'll get more answers. But I certainly think if that doesn't happen, if a supplemental were to come our way, it'll force that.
Certainly. $200 billion is what we're talking about, the number. And so I would expect that there's going to be a lot of scrutiny there.
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
I want to talk about my third News of the Day question is actually about something that you have been pushing, the prediction markets. There has been a ton of activity right now around how the markets are emerging, who should be betting on these things, who shouldn't be. You introduced a bill with Adrian Smith, the Republican from Nebraska, to not only prohibit members, but then I think you went to family members, the president, vice president, some members of the cabinet. Talk about the problem you're trying to solve.
Well, it's interesting you're talking about the war. It was actually when it came to our attention that when the strikes happened with the United States on Iran, there were a few new traders to the Polymarket platform. A few that had some very precise information on the timing of that strike and cashed in on a little over $1 million. You know, do we know who these folks were? Do we know if they were folks that had inside information? We don't know that, but it is certainly very precarious or interesting, curious that they did this. So I think it just led us to looking for a bipartisan partner, really excited to be partnering with Congressman Smith on this, to just say that Congresspeople like myself, our senior staff, White House, senior officials, the president, the vice president, and then we specifically say dependent children as well, that just might have access to this very unique, sensitive information. We just think it's very obvious and common sense that we shouldn't be monetizing and making money on that on a Polymarket or a prediction market platform. So excited that we introduced that yesterday. And we're starting to work with industry. We met with Kalshi. Kalshi actually supports our legislation, so we're hoping that we might be able to pick up some industry support and then more bipartisan support to make it a reality.
Yeah. All right, let's shift to the topic of the day, the future of agriculture, why so many people are in the room. I want to talk, let's start 100,000 feet here. How do you see the current economic crisis in agriculture?
I think it is at a real tipping point. We are in a full crisis, I think, the farm economy. I think when you look at the growers, I come from the Midwest, so I have a lot of row crops in my districts, specifically corn and soybean, although I often point out that I represent the horseradish capital of the world in Collinsville, Illinois, so we do have specialty crops.
We have a place to go next. We'll go take Punchbowl News on the road
for some horseradish.
Exactly.
Okay, we can do that, Anna.
Exactly.
But yeah, when I talk to my growers, which is very frequently, they're having record production right now, but they don't have the markets to sell what they're producing. They don't want direct payments. They want to be able to farm for an economy that they can then sell what they've grown and be able to survive. These are families that have passed down generations of farms, and they are literally fighting for their survival. I think when you couple it with you're seeing with the war in Iran, fertilizer costs have gone up by 70% over the course of this last 2 weeks. When I had first come into office in 2022, I was hearing about record high input costs. So you can imagine at a 70% increase on fertilizer, what that pain point means. And then we're losing out when I grow, not myself personally, but the constituents that I represent grow some of the most soybean. When you look at what happened with China, finally, the president was able to broker a deal where we were able to sell some of our soybeans to China, but that was very precarious and very unknown. And I think the unknown in the farm economy is also very debilitating. So, the fact that we haven't got a farm bill done, the fact that these markets are continuing to not be as fully open, they want access to new markets, not closed off markets that they've had from the past. And then you have an ever-changing agricultural landscape when you're looking at climate change, when you're looking at, we have some of the best black soil in the country. What are we doing to protect that? I just think we're not meeting that moment as a federal government right now for our growers.
There's so much uncertainty in general with the weather and what's happening, much less kind of what's happening for farmers and the economy. The president was announced today that there's going to be a big announcement tomorrow. A lot of people believe that this will be a bailout, a debt relief. What are you hearing? What are you hoping if you haven't, got a direct line into this White House?
Yeah, well, I would like to just point out that the House Dem on agriculture, our House Dems actually already outlined what we think needs to be in a farm aid package. So if it is in fact a farm aid package, I do think that farmers are going to need some additional supports, direct payments perhaps to just stay afloat. We know bankruptcy rates are skyrocketing right now, so that's going to help to just shore up some of the farmers. One of the things that we also think, and this is a bigger conversation, but what happens to the Farm Bill Coalition? When you're talking about farm aid, yes, that's providing direct support to our growers, but what about that nutrition title and what's happening with food insecurity in this country? I don't believe that's something that we can completely divorce in a farm aid package if we're going to be supporting our growers. One of the things that House Democrats on the committee had suggested is that Republican and Democratic governors have asked for more time around implementation in some of the bigger SNAP cuts and the administrative costs that are now going to be passed on to the states. We've asked for more time. It'll be interesting to see if there's any, I will be honest, I don't hold out a lot of hope for that, but that's something that as House Dems we think is important. But we need to see, I am a very big proponent, I think, as you know, Anna, in making sure that we get to year-round E15. Yeah. Obviously, the president has signaled that he's going to provide the summer waiver that a lot of our growers have been looking for. We need to get out of this waiver business. If we got year-round E15 done, again, when you're talking about creating certainty for the farm economy, that's what year-round E15 would do for our Midwestern growers. So they're not waiting around to see whether this administration or that administration will do the waiver. So maybe that'll be included in a farm aid package. I would love to see that. But there's a lot of different things. I think those are kind of top of mind for me.
Yeah, let's drill down a little bit on the E15 issue. I know that you've had some legislation yourself to kind of make it so that it's not on a waiver situation. Is this something you think you could use what the president's doing to try to get maybe a larger coalition behind your effort?
Yeah, well, I would just say we've come so close so many different times. We were going to get year-round E15 done. I think when President Trump had first come in, and it was actually Elon Musk that decided it needed to be removed. I don't know why that was the case, but not a lot of, we don't know that, but it wasn't in there. And then we came very close because there was a very delicate negotiation that happens between our growers, obviously corn in particular, but the refineries. So getting the right balance between our small, medium, and large refineries. We had a bipartisan agreement on this issue. We just needed the vehicle. We very much thought that the appropriations package that just came through was that vehicle. Yeah. But my House Republican colleagues decided to settle for a task force. We don't need a task force. And I say that not facetiously, but I think the immediacy of the urgency of where the farm economy is right now, we just need to get this included in a moving vehicle. And so I am optimistic that I think the details have more than been hashed out. Right. Let's just get it on a farm aid package. We tried to raise it during Farm Bill markup in the committee, and I will say Republican leadership didn't believe that it was germane to the committee, but interestingly, Agricultural Chairman in the Senate, Bozeman, has said he actually is maybe potentially open to including year-round E15 in a Senate version of a Farm Bill. So I'm keeping hope alive that there might be multiple vehicles that we can get it finally attached to.
A lot of different potential pathways.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the Farm Bill. It should be happening.
Yes. We've been talking about it for a while.
Yes, I feel like we have been. What are the areas, it doesn't seem like it's probably going to get done. I would love your kind of outlook on that, and then what you're really fighting for as part of that.
Yeah, we just had markup in the House committee. I think it was now 3 weeks ago, and I couldn't get to a yes on it just because I felt like, first of all, I want to vote for a farm bill. I come from a place that needs a farm bill. Our growers need that safety net. I just thought that the version needed and requires more negotiations and didn't really kind of meet the mark. In particular, my concern was around EQIP and a cut from conservation programming. Conservation is a very important kind of set of tools that our growers use. I mentioned that we have some of the best black soil. We do a lot of regenerative ag in my district. EQIP is oversubscribed as it is. The fact that the House majority, the Republicans on the committee, wanted to take $1 billion out of the 14. There was an additional $14 billion in climate smart agriculture that came out of the Inflation Reduction Act. House Democrats had been fighting in last Congress to keep that $14 billion. What I saw in this markup 3 weeks ago was about $1 billion being taken out of that, which would have hurt our Midwestern growers, in particular EQIP. So I didn't think that met the moment. I also was very concerned with pesticides as something that our growers need to be able to targetedly use. But there was, I think, a very big preemption component in pesticides, for pesticides in this markup that was just a little further than what I would be able to support. That was something that was concerning. There was also no addressing of the $187 billion of cuts to SNAP, right? We can find $200 billion for a war supplemental, but we're willing to cut our SNAP program by $187 billion, creating food insecurity. And I just think the issues with that, and when I look at the Farm Bill as it currently stands in the House, is how do we move forward where we rebuild that Farm Bill coalition? It's been proven that in order to get a successful Farm Bill across the finish line, you have to bring together the nutrition title along with the components for our commodities. They are interconnected. The question is, are they still interconnected? And so I just felt like this bill didn't meet that mark. Yeah.
I want to talk a little bit about what you're hearing back in your district. So obviously, as you say, a lot of row crops, corn, soybean growers. When you go back home and they hear, the Farm Bill's probably not going to happen, what's your reaction? What are you hearing from people, your constituents?
I think that they're frustrated. I mean, I think they're frustrated when I talk to growers, especially our corn growers. They're very frustrated around year-round E15 because they see the dwindling market access that both soybean and corn, doubling our trade promotion programs was something that I've been very supportive of, was something that did happen in the reconciliation package, but we're still seeing, because of the tariffs, a closing off of these markets. The safety net is really something that we know that even without a Farm Bill, crop insurance continues to operate. But plussing it up and correcting it, one of the other bigger issues that I've been pushing for, which is kind of spicy on the House Ag Committee, is to call for a mandatory base acre update. Because when you look at how we're responding to supporting our growers, providing them a small commodity payment, that's based on base acreage that hasn't been actually calculated since 1985. Yeah. So agriculture has changed significantly, and I think to provide more precise commodity payments as needed, we should be updating and doing a mandatory base acre update. So these are the kind of things that I hear from my growers when they hear we don't get a Farm Bill done. It's incredibly frustrating, and there are all of these opportunities that I think would really make a huge difference for them in a really uncertain ag economy.
Getting spicy on the Ag Committee. All right, you heard it here first, folks. I want to talk about private-public partnerships. So much of what Congress does is, of course, kind of legislating, figuring out what the policy is. But certainly the public-private and the private investment that's being made in your district. What are you seeing?
Well, we had PepsiCo, actually. I know it to my district. They invest in a lot of conservation programs and work with our growers on that. That's a really great public-private partnership. The other one that I'm incredibly proud of, I often joke that I represent Silicon Valley because we won out of the CHIPS and Science Act, one of the 12 tech hubs, a $41 million federal investment in biomanufacturing and fermentation. It's a perfect example of public-private partnerships. I'm really honored to represent my alma mater, the University of Illinois. They're a really important partner. But we have ADM. I represent Archer-Daniels Midland, also Primient. They've been great private sector partners in this work. And then our growers, so the corn growers. I also, Kraft Heinz is located within my district. All of us pulling together as this agricultural space is really innovating and changing. And in order to, first of all, invest in that research, the federal government is falling way far behind, in my opinion, on investments in agricultural research. Our private sector partners are helping us to make up that gap in some ways. It's really important. Biomanufacturing and fermentation is something that, in short, what would be agricultural waste from production of corn and soybean and end up in a landfill, because of this investment in innovation, we can make yoga pants out of that. And it's a $200 billion potential new industry within our district. So that's the power of public-private partnerships that I'm really excited about.
From waste to yoga pants.
Yeah.
That's pretty incredible. Yeah. We're quickly running out of time, but there's a couple other things I want to hit on, which is, you talked about kind of the pipeline, schools, Silicon Valley.
Silicon Valley.
I'll work on that one. Talk about the Young Farmer Success Act. What does it do? Why are you supporting it?
Yeah, it's really important. When you recognize that the average age of an American farmer in this country today is almost pressing now 60 years old, we have to be encouraging this next generation of growers to get into this industry, or if they're young people, stay in this industry. As we've talked about, the farm economy is not an easy one to crack into, even on its best economic day. Yeah. And so Congressman Zach Nunn from Des Moines, he and I partnered on this piece of legislation that through the Farm Service Agency, through FSA, which would basically create a loan, a small loan forgiveness program to help young and beginning farmers that might want to acquire land get access to those low interest loans in order for them to do that, to compete with a developer. It is so hard. And this bill actually just addresses the land, let alone the machinery, which is also now multi-million-dollar machinery. It's a very expensive industry, but we need to be thinking about ways to break down barriers for young people to get into this space.
Another big topic when it comes to those kind of barriers is student loan debt.
Yeah.
Are you in favor of some forgiveness for farmers in this area?
I am. When I talk about student loan forgiveness, I think, in my opinion, I think it should be very targeted to the professions and the industries with which we need people. We need growers, we need farmers, we need nurses, we need teachers. I was a poli-sci major. Maybe we don't need so many poli-sci majors.
I was one too. Oh,
sorry, Anna. But we do need growers. We need growers. And so I just think as we look ahead to what our economy looks like and what the workforce needs we have in the future, I actually host a workforce summit in my district every year, and we're going to actually focus on agriculture this year in Decatur because there are so many different jobs within our communities that are focused within the agricultural industry to help partner and to shed a light for superintendents so they can start talking to kids at a younger age about the jobs of the future, because we know that's very much changing with AI and everything else.
Yeah, I want to get to two other things, then we'll wrap up. But I think you talk about innovation, right? We're talking about backstage. I mean, I grew up on a farm in North Dakota, and where it was 25 years ago, where it is today, it's satellites and it's precision farming, it's regenerative farming. What are some of the innovative things that you're seeing when it comes to the University of Illinois and other places?
Well, there's so much. So the University of Illinois, we're the home of AI farms, which is fascinating, which is, I think, a first of its kind, which is really how are we utilizing this new AI technology to enable us to be, to save money for farmers, to reduce input costs. I would also say we're one of the homes of precision agriculture as well. I'll admit to you, Anna, I had not ridden a combine before coming to Congress. I have now rode on a combine.
I love it.
And they are like spaceships. I mean, they are really, they are high-tech computer equipment. No longer does a farmer just spray, fertilizer or pesticide. They're able to actually, and this is good for the environment, able to be very precise through technologies of precision agriculture. Yeah. We have great community colleges that I represent, Parkland Community College, which is a precision agriculture leader, in addition to the University of Illinois College of ACES. And so utilizing technologies like AI, utilizing skills through precision agriculture, I think is going to be more climate friendly, but also reduce input costs because people are going to have to use less applications on their farmland.
Yeah. If you've not been to a 21st century farm, it is worth going to because it is like it's a very cool. It's very technical. Yeah. On that note, last question. Project forward.
Yeah.
5 years from now, 10 years from now, where do you see the future of farming and the role it plays in the Illinois economy?
It's going to be critical. I mean, for the state of Illinois, when you think about it, I often remind people that agriculture is our #1 economic engine. Even though you think of the beautiful city of Chicago, it's agriculture that really powers our state economy. And so it is vital that we continue to invest in innovation, that we support our land-grant universities like the University of Illinois, something we didn't really talk about, but another bipartisan bill that I've really been working on and wasn't in the Farm Bill is plussing up our investments in agricultural research. Yeah. It's just so critically important. If we're talking about competing with China or competing with Brazil for our soybean growers, we have to be investing public funds, not just our private sector partners, but public funds in agricultural research. So I think it is... I love the committee and I love agriculture because it is so ever evolving and we really are changing. We talk so much about energy, but the bioeconomy is coming fast and furious, and it's going to open up new opportunities for our growers. Food insecurity, we talk a lot about that, and I believe food security is national security. So if you believe all of those things, having a very robust and healthy agricultural economy in our state is important.
All right, we are going to leave it there. Congressman Budzinski, thank you so much. All right, I really appreciate it. Great.
Thank you.
Please stay seated. We're going to have a short video before our fireside chat.
So I've been thinking, might be time to hang it up.
How about one last time, together?
Okay, kiddo.
I walked across an empty land.
Over it up.
I knew the pathway like the back of my hand. I felt the earth beneath my feet. Sat by the river and it made me complete.
Got one.
And if you
One more thing.
have a minute, why don't somewhere only we know.
It's your farm now.
So why don't we go somewhere only we know?
So I've been thinking.
Thank you all so much. Now I'd like to welcome Stephen Williams of PepsiCo and Katie Fleming of New Miller Farms to the stage for a fireside chat. Thank you, thank you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, please. Well, that's such a great commercial. Super Bowl ad, huh?
That's pretty good.
Pretty good. All right, Stephen, we are going to start with you. Tell us a little bit about why you are here today and why the topic of agriculture is so important to PepsiCo.
Yeah, so that is a great question to start with. So first, thank you for having us today. I'm looking forward to the discussion. So everybody knows PepsiCo, right? Most people certainly know us for the name on the door, which is Pepsi, and they think of us as a beverage company.
Yes.
So we're also a big food company, and we have brands like Quaker Oats, which are oats come from agriculture. Lay's potato chips, largest snack brand in America, which comes from potatoes. as well as other brands like Tostitos that are household names. And so what I would say is we have a large agricultural footprint. We use somewhere around 8 billion tons of agricultural products in our food and beverage products a year. And so farming is super important to us. And so we believe, right, our products start with soil and with farmers, and then we turn it into something delicious for our consumers to enjoy. And so it's really, really important for us to spend quality time understanding the needs of the farmers, and we'll talk more about that as we go. But that's why we're here.
I like the slogan: food, drinks, smiles.
Like that.
Very nice. Katie, so that's pretty incredible to be the inspiration for a Super Bowl ad. I grew up on a farm, as I said earlier. Sadly, no Super Bowl ad yet, but I'm in the market. Let me know.
We're going to talk about that.
Exactly. All right. I like it. All right. So talk to us a little bit about your family and your experience as a Frito-Lay grower.
Yeah, so that ad is just amazing. When Frito-Lay asked me a few months ago if they could use our family as inspiration for that ad, I couldn't say yes fast enough. I was so excited and so honored because it really captures what farming is, and that's legacy and family. And just to have them as a partner, my family has been farming with Frito-Lay for over 70 years. And so that's a partnership that shows up every day. And we're very grateful for that and very proud. And we know that we have them as a backbone to help us invest into the future and to be more sustainable on our farm and to help us make better decisions. A little bit about my family. My great-grandfather grew potatoes in Eastern Europe. My grandfather grew potatoes in Wisconsin. And now my dad and I grow potatoes in Northwest Illinois. So we are a family farm. I kind of joke with my dad about the commercial is that I don't know if he'll ever really have a last season because he really enjoys what he does. And that was the name of the commercial, The Last Season. So he really enjoys what he does, and I enjoy having him around too. But it's something too that with this multi-generational farm is that we're not just thinking about this current season, we're thinking about generations and decades to come. And having Frito-Lay as a partner really helps us to capture that.
Go
ahead, please.
That was next. So, you know, the inspiration for the commercial, and there were really two things. One is 60% of people didn't understand that potato chips came from potatoes. That's one.
Wow.
Two, I don't think there were enough people that appreciate what farmers do for this country.
Yeah.
And so we started 2 years ago with a series of commercials, and the first one was called The Little Farmer, and it was inspired by a farm visit that the daughter of this multi-generation, one of our oldest farmers, was on the farm with her dad. I mean, she was very small. She was called her Little Farmer. And the next year we thought, what if we completed the story with another multi-generational farmer that was getting ready to transition? And it has been really inspirational, both for our company as well as for consumers. And hopefully, I know I have some farm partners here, some other farm partners. They're inspirational to the farm community as well.
Yeah, so we're in Washington. As you say, some people aren't as maybe familiar as PepsiCo's overall footprint. But give us the lay of the land when it comes to Lay's as a product.
Lay's is a product, so it's hopefully everybody has tried Lay's, but if you haven't, it's a wonderful potato chip. So if you think about Lay's Classic has 3 ingredients: potato, oil, and salt, all from where? Okay, farm. Right? And so if you think about it, the simple ingredients of many of our products, and it has none of our Lay's products in our Lay's line up have any artificial colors or flavors. And it's a special brand for us. And again, like I said at the beginning, it's one of the largest food brands in the company.
So Katie, we were at an event focused on the future of farming. We heard a lot from Representative Budzinski about the changes she's seeing in Illinois when it comes to innovation. Talk to us a little bit, from your experience. How have you seen the industry change, and what does that look like for a family farm operation?
Yeah. So I graduated college in 2006, and that's when I started working full-time at our farm. So I wasn't just the little farmer anymore. It was the real show. And back then, it's sad to say, but a lot of everything was just done through memory and passing it on from season to season, saying, oh, this is what we did last year, and this is, but now we have more data-driven decision-making that we can make. We're using variable rate irrigations. We're using variable rate nutrient management. So I'm able to treat the field not just as a whole, but I can go in by rows and decide what I want to do to fix that soil or to that plant. We're doing cover crops. That's something that we've always done, but now they're being measured. And this is not just something that farmers are doing, but it's expected across the supply chain now. And it's something that's showing up that we need to do, and that it's also that we're going to do it just because it's good for our land, but it's also good for the land to come for our future generations. It's that level of insight that's helping us make these better decisions now, and that they're quicker decisions, and we're not just going off of memory of how things used to be.
Absolutely. Steve, obviously everybody here eats food. We always have Lay's at our house. We have a big snack drawer. But not a lot of Americans, not a lot of people here in Washington have a background in agriculture, right? Walk us through some of the areas where you wish people better understood farming and what farmers do every day, and how that has impacted how PepsiCo approaches regenerative agriculture.
Okay, that's great. So I'm not a farmer. I was an future farmer of America, though.
FFA,
so
yes.
I will tell you that. So I know a little bit about farming, but I don't know a lot. And so if you think about 9 years ago, and I'll start there, we transitioned at PepsiCo from performance with purpose to what we called Pep Positive or PepsiCo Positive. And it was really about positive for the planet, positive for people. And if you think about the planet and you think about our agricultural footprint and all of the headwinds, if you will, that are facing the land, we started to take very, very seriously what we needed to do to help our farm partners thrive. And so we work with about 12,000 farmers across the U.S., and we have 100 key potato farmers. Katie is one of that we work with. And we knew we needed to provide solutions, and we didn't know what we didn't know. And so we started out pretty aggressive, and I will tell you one of the things we did that I'm super proud of is about 4 years ago, we stood up the Food and Farm Council. And I think you're going to have some discussions with them, some of the gentlemen later today. And it is probably the best thing that we've done, because we really went to school on what we needed to do to provide help. Regeneration isn't new. Farmers have been regenerating before PepsiCo showed up and said, hey, how can we help you? And so really learning from what are the tools, what are the capabilities, what are the type of investments that we need to make to help with soil health, to help with how you manage water, to help with versus just saying, hey, we're PepsiCo, we're here to help. So I will tell you the thing that we learned the most is from really listening and spending time with our farm partners to understand how to move things forward. We made a commitment 3 years ago, so we're doing a lot in regenerative ag, and a lot of it is, as my dad used to say, it takes money to buy land, right? And one of the things you can help farmers with is with resources. And so 3.5 years ago or so, the USDA put out a grant, and that was a matching grant to cover acreage, and it was big. It was a lot of money. It was like $60 million per. And they were going to take two partners, and so us and Walmart and USDA went in with a grant to cover about 7 million acres, and now we've committed as a company we're going to do 10 million acres by the end of 2030, and so we're serious about trying to help. We don't, I said earlier, 8 billion tons of product from the farm. We can't, we need to have healthy farmers in order to have products to delight our consumers.
Katie, let's take that step from kind of your perspective. You're on the ground. How have you incorporated generative practices in your operations and the impact? What have you seen on that?
So I think it's important to first say that, like how Stephen had mentioned, like regenerative ag is not something that we just started doing. It's something that farmers have been doing all along. And now we just have different measures and practices on ways that we can record it. And Frito-Lay, they really expect that from us as a grower. But it's not just expecting it, they help us with it. They're, like he said, with the PEP Positive, they're helping us with portals that we can add our information into and to see how we're doing year after year and how we're improving our farm. So Frito-Lay really does show up as a partner for us, and they help us with making these decisions. And, you know, they're offering incentives for us because it is a risk. And it's also the risk of the unknown. But knowing that I have the partnership and the resources that I can get from PepsiCo help us out with that.
Yeah, you have the willingness on the farm side, but you have the help with the partnership.
Right.
And the stability.
Yeah.
We are almost out of time, but before I let you go, I always close a lot of these fireside chats with one question. For those in the room and on the live stream and who are going to be reading about this afterwards, what's the one thing you hope our community takes from this conversation? And maybe I'll start with you, Katie, and then we'll let.
I love how Stephen said just how simple their product is. You know, potatoes, salt, and oil. It comes from the ground, and it's something that a family farm is behind, and our legacy is going to be keeping it going. And so I think that's really important.
I love it, Steve.
The importance of the family farm. I mean, I can't stress enough, and it's not. It does take a village, and it's not just PepsiCo. It's everybody that uses products from the farm. It's the bankers that help the farms. It's John Deere who provides the equipment. It's the companies. It takes a community, but it starts with the soil, and it starts on the farm. So if that's what they take away,
Yes.
please do.
I love it. We're going to leave it there. Thank you both so much for
Thank
joining
you.
me. I really appreciate it. All right. That's great. Please stay seated. My colleague Andrew will be up in just a minute.
Please welcome Punchbowl News senior congressional reporter Andrew Desiderio.
All right. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, everyone, for being here. I would like to welcome our distinguished panel on board this afternoon here, our industry expert panel, if you will. We've got Steve Censky, CEO of the American Soybean Association, Neil Caskey, CEO of the National Corn Growers Association, and Cam Quarles, CEO of the National Potato Council. Thanks, guys. Great. So, all three of you have some very unique perspectives here, obviously. Most importantly, you're here to reflect the needs and the perspectives of your members all across the country. That means we're going to be bringing the producer perspective into focus here today, the goal being to help align policy here in Washington with the realities on the ground, which is obviously sometimes a very difficult task here in Washington. I want to start off with a sort of 30,000-foot look at what your growers are telling you right now and what they want to see from policymakers here in Washington. Steve, we'll start with you.
Sure. Great. Well, first of all, thanks for having us and really look forward to the conversation here today. Growers are telling us, of course, they're caught in a cost price squeeze right now. It is really tough out there in the farming community, as I think folks who follow agriculture know. We have commodity prices that are down, cost of inputs are high and remain high. And so they're really looking for a number of things. One is, you know, what can we do to make sure we're stabilizing trade? In soybeans, we export half the crop that we produce, and so making sure that we have stable trade and that we're doing all we can to open new markets is very important, but also domestic demand. What can we do to increase domestic demand here at home is very important. And then finally, what can be done to try to lower input prices?
Yeah,
Neil?
I'll add to that theme, and thank you for the invitation to be here, and thank you for the focus on agriculture. Happy Ag Day. I know that's passed, but we're going to take the whole week if you guys don't mind.
Why not the whole month?
The whole month, sure, while we're at it. I think the Congresswoman summed it up, and I think there's frustration. And so it is, we're at the end of March, and corn farmers across the U.S. are about to head into the fields, and they're going to be planting the most expensive corn crop in history. And they're doing that with just concerns about price and markets. And so they're frustrated, and they're looking for solutions here in Washington, D.C. to help in that regard. And so we touched on it. If we have some folks in the crowd that are following ag policy, you probably heard a thing or two about E15. Anyone? Show a hand. Yeah, probably sick of hearing of it. Just a fun fact, I had a full head of hair this January, and here I am. And so they're frustrated. This is to us, this year-round nationwide E15 is a simple way to generate demand that corn farmers need. So every 1% increase in the blend rate, right now about 10% of the gas that you put in your tank is ethanol. And so we're just trying to voluntarily bump that up to E15, not a mandate, entirely voluntarily. And so every 1% increase from 10 to 11 to 12 to 13 to 14 to 15 is about a 500 million bushels in corn demand. That is a big deal to America's corn farmers that are hurting right now. Get ready to plant a very expensive crop, and the price is not going to support it.
And we obviously saw what the administration did yesterday, but this has been a bipartisan demand on Capitol Hill for many, many years. I actually wouldn't use the word demand, I would use the word beg, essentially from the leadership to try to include this in must-pass legislation, which we'll talk about more as well. Cam, same question to you.
Yeah, I'd just like to echo what Steve and Neil have said. One of the unique things about us is I'm the CEO of the National Potato Council. I'm also one of the co-chairs of the Specialty Crop Farm Bill Alliance. Specialty crops, different than our Title I colleagues. A lot of the safety net programs, obviously, that exist in the Farm Bill are specialty crops are outside of those, outside of that assistance. But we're all playing in this very volatile economic environment, and growers, the stress that our specialty crop producers feel, our potato producers feel, just as intense as our Title I colleagues, and it's forcing us to look at things that we really haven't been after in the past, like economic relief, direct payments, those types of things. A place where the specialty crop industry really has never gone before. By the way, I did want to mention that I did love the Super Bowl commercial.
Absolutely.
I'm one of the 40% who knew that potato chips. For sure.
That's good.
I was aware. I was aware. So that is a nuance for specialty crops. It is. We're all in the same environment, but it's even perhaps a higher risk just because of some of the support that doesn't exist for us.
Steve, as you know, PepsiCo established the Farm and Food Council about 4 years ago. Can you tell us a little bit about that partnership?
Yeah, it's been really interesting and really important. I really applaud PepsiCo for doing that because they're one of the, I think, only food companies that is recognizing and bringing growers into the picture to really try to understand what do growers need to be more successful. And so they're working with their suppliers, which are farmers, and how can they be more successful? How can they be more resilient? How can they be more sustainable? And those are all good things. I think importantly, one of the things, and I want to give them credit for this, there's a lot of folks that start out here, and we're all familiar with this in Washington, that with a prescription, or people who have never maybe even been on a farm, but they know the answer on what farmers should be doing. PepsiCo didn't start there. They actually came and talked to the farmer to say, tell us, this is where we would like to go. how can we help you in do that? And so they didn't come with a prescription, but came to try to understand and then to support the farmer as they try to do that.
Neil, what is working well with these collaborations right now, and what maybe needs some increased focus or some improvement?
So I guess I'll tell a prequel to the ad that we all loved. I should say, and Stephen knows this, we did a panel. I was like, I love Pepsi because they're the maker of my favorite product, the Cool Ranch Dorito. I'm undefeated against a bag of Cool Ranch. They all know that. They've heard that from me. They said that this is not a vice. I think I declared it as my one vice, and in this place it's not. So the first time that we met, and one of the three of us plus many other agricultural leaders, when we wrapped up, and we said the one thing that Pepsi and Lay's and the brands that are directly interacting with the consumer, the one thing that you can do that we can't is to tell the story of the American farmer. And so that was 3 or 4 years ago. I don't remember when it was. And then fast forward to the Super Bowl 25 and that ad, and then Katie, your spot came as a follow-up and say, not only are you listening to the needs of our growers and not telling them what to do on their farms, but really trying to work with them, but you're listening to us. And I got to say, Katie, so I have a daughter in college, and so they were all watching the Super Bowl with her sorority friends, and she was so excited when she saw that ad. Now, she thought maybe there was some kind of corn connection to it, and so we got, I got some education to do in my own household, but she was so excited to see that story and what you represented. So thank you. Well done.
Cam, regenerative agriculture has been a big focus. How can these partnerships help to scale that practice and also improve market signals to your members?
Yeah, I think first off, there are some amazing things that are going on in American agriculture, and especially on our potato farms here in the United States. Often those stories just unfortunately are not making it immediately, and for no ill intention by consumers. They're busy with their own lives. They don't. It's our obligation to tell those stories. And I think once you have that opportunity, once that door gets opened, and the Super Bowl ad is a great example of that, but it's broader than that. Once people are shown what's going on these farms, they're really curious and excited and fascinated about all of these incredible technological developments, the ingenuity of the American farmer. It's really inspiring. These type of partnerships amplify all of that. We have, from very small family farm, we represent all of the commercial growers in the United States. So that's the entire spectrum. Some may have capacity to do things that others cannot. Having these types of partnerships with thought leaders, great companies like PepsiCo, who are really out there at the forefront, can amplify all of those great practices, and then also help us to tell that story and get in front of. A lot of people are well-intentioned, but maybe not fully informed. And it's our job to close it. It's not their job. It's our job to close that knowledge gap.
Steve, obviously all of this costs a lot of money. What can Congress do to incentivize some of these practices, regenerative agriculture, obviously, but also conservation practices, so that farmers can properly be compensated for doing something that is, good for the environment, good for their land, and good for the whole broader ecosystem?
Yeah, and that's really important, and because farmers do need that assistance, and we're at the American Soybean Association are very strongly supportive of voluntary cost share incentive-based programs that will work with farmers and try to help them be more successful to adopt the conservation practices that they need. That includes, of course, the conservation programs like the Conservation Stewardship Incentive Program, the Environmental Quality Incentive Program, the Regional Conservation Partnership Program, and others. Those are really important, and it was really, I think, important that those funding for some of those programs, the conservation programs that were in the Inflation Reduction Act, those were rolled into basically the Farm Bill baseline under the One Big Beautiful Act that passed last summer. But it is really important that we continue those programs and continue those incentive programs as well as the public-private partnerships, because farmers, it can be risky to adopt new conservation practices. We're governed by a farmer board, and we represent around 500,000 soybean farmers across the United States. And what I hear consistently from our members and our board members is that they want to adopt. And as Katie said, farmers are very interested in doing all that they can to be sustainable, to adopt regenerative agriculture practices. But sometimes as you adopt those new practices, it comes with risk, and that you need investment as well. Implementing precision agriculture costs money as well to have that kind of equipment and that allows you to do that. So those voluntary incentive programs and public-private partnerships are extremely important.
Neil, same question to you. How can Congress, policymakers in general, sort of incentivize these practices?
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is pass the remaining parts of the Farm Bill so that we can do that. And just to add to it, and having some of that flexibility, to put a finer point on what Steve was sharing, is like cover crops. I think is an example of a regenerative ag practice that we're all that farmers are considering. What a lot of folks, particularly out here in Washington, that are trying to encourage these practices don't appreciate is that it can cost from $50 to $80 an acre to adopt those practices. That's real money. And when the economy is what it is right now, it's really hard. And so, that type of flexibility and support that will enable the farmer to meet whatever environmental standards, whatever standards, there's one thing that the American corn farmer does well. It's like when a consumer or someone says, hey, I want this thing, they will always rise up to meet that expectation. And so the flexibility from the government and some support to allow it to happen, I think, is where we start, obviously, with the Farm Bill.
You've all talked about the sort of economic crisis in agriculture right now, much of it, of course, brought on by tariffs and trade wars and the like. But we heard Congresswoman Budzinski mention that the average age of an American farmer continues to rise. And, in other words, folks aren't doing a good enough job of incentivizing younger Americans to get into the industry and to want to do this job. And so, how are these sort of economic headwinds impacting all of your members right now, and how can some of these partnerships that you're actively engaging in help mitigate some of those negative impacts? Cam, I'll start with you.
Well, I think part of it is a calling for all of us with the association folks to try to address in the short term these economic challenges and hopefully get a partnership both with Congress and the administration to provide a lifeline to these family farms to make sure that there have been policy changes that folks are optimistic about. Tax policy. They're obviously hopeful we're going to get past a lot of this trade volatility and perhaps have more open markets in the future. But if you go out of business before any of those policies take place, it doesn't matter. So we are squarely focused on getting an adequate, a meaningful economic relief package from Congress and the administration that can keep these family farms in business. That's the first priority. Looking farther out, we really need to lean into creating an economic environment, a policy environment, just a competitive environment where a young person coming out who's just getting out of college sees the big picture and views themselves as a part of it. And that will be addressed in multiple layers. It's good trade policy. It's actually passing a farm bill that's not looking, right now the farm bill we're dealing with is 10 years back in time. Agriculture's changed a lot in the last decade. We need a farm bill that is addressing both the current environment that we're in and also looking 10 years out in the future at the big threats to us. And our foreign competitors are not slowing down. They're barreling ahead. They want our markets. And I think it's a calling for all of us, agriculture broadly, the associations, everyone invested in this, to lean into that and make sure that a 25-year-old actually sees a future in this amazing, fantastic industry.
You mentioned an economic relief package. One of the storylines this week in the Senate, obviously they're negotiating this DHS funding bill, but Republicans have now revived, the sidecar effort known as budget reconciliation, whereby they would fund parts of DHS that they might not fund this time through the broader appropriations process. And I mention this because a lot of Republicans are interested in adding other not unrelated to ICE and DHS elements into that reconciliation bill, things like defense funding, and of course a potential economic relief effort for farmers and for the agriculture industry across the country. What would you, Steve, I'll start with you on this. What would you want to see as part of that economic relief package, if in fact it is something that's pursued by Senate Republicans as they pursue a potential second reconciliation package, which, as I mentioned before, the centerpiece of it is going to be something that's kind of unrelated?
Yeah, we would like to see, we're strongly supportive, and as Cam, I think, articulated that, there's the need. We have to keep the farmers that are farming today in business until hopefully we can get to better trade deals, more domestic demand, all of those things. And in terms of a package that may be moving, we're supportive of that. We know that it's needed. We do believe that the package needs to include, and obviously it's going to include specialty crops. It's going to include row crops as well. On the row crop side, for us, from the soybean industry, we would like to see it tailored a little bit more toward looking at the market losses that were suffered by producers. We have the distinction in the soybean industry. Of course, China is our largest market, and they're the largest soybean importer in the world. They import on an annual basis between a fourth and a third of all soybeans that are produced in this country. And because of the trade war with China, we saw our exports go to zero. And entering the new marketing year, we were selling no soybeans to China. And we saw the price of soybeans was reflecting that. We're thankful that when a deal was reached with China to restart our exports to China, 12 million metric tons this marketing year, 25 million tons for the next couple of years. That's better. 12 million is better than zero, but that's 12 million is less than half of what we normally export. And so we would like to see any kind of economic assistance package recognize and compensate for and be tailored for some of the market losses that we've received because of the trade war.
Neil, I also hear a lot of members of Congress, especially Democrats, saying, that our farmers don't want money, they want markets. What's your perspective on that?
Yeah, that's true. No farmer that I know wants to ask for economic assistance. They need it right now. These are tough times. We also need markets, and I think that is in the long term. That's how we get out of this cycle. And I would say that the single greatest thing that Congress can do to signal they care about the American corn farmer is to pass year-round nationwide E15, include it in anything that is moving this Congress. That is the single most important thing that they can do to support corn.
Yeah, there are very few trains leaving the station, as we like to say, this year, especially in an election year. I want to close here, though, on a happy note. We've talked a lot about economic headwinds and some of the challenges that your members are all facing. Despite all of those challenges, what are you the most optimistic about when it comes to the future of farming and agriculture? Cam, let's start with you.
I just continue to think that the United States is the best place to be farming today. The access to technology, to these incredible knowledge base that we have here, wonderful growing conditions, potatoes, a number of different commodities. This is the best place in the world to be in agriculture, and I'm very optimistic that we, in telling our story properly with great partners throughout the supply chain, we can sit down with policymakers, create an environment that is going to put a tailwind behind this industry, not just for a couple of years, but for decades, if it's done right.
Steve?
Yeah, I'm optimistic about the future. Of course, we're here in the springtime, which is the most optimistic time for farmers everywhere. And as they plant, I mean, talk about resilience of year after year of having the optimism despite the weather risk and the policy risk and everything else to put that seed in the ground and to be optimistic that you're going to, produce a bountiful crop that's going to feed not only your family, but the rest of America and those around the world. And so farmers, I think, are optimistic by nature. I'm optimistic that with the right policies in place and the technologies that are happening today, and that includes AI, I think is going to be transformative. I think AI has the opportunity to be the next agriculture revolution of using data. Katie talked about that, of how she's using data to more precisely manage and fertilize and increase the productivity on her farm. And farmers all around the country are doing that. We just had a month ago corn, soybeans, wheat, and sorghum, along with the equipment manufacturers, our annual convention and trade show. Over 12,000 attendees. A lot of young people were there, and a lot of just not only, of course, the latest machinery and seed technologies, but robotics and data packages and sensors. It's phenomenal, and I'm optimistic about the future of agriculture.
Neil? Last word.
Yeah, I mean, plenty. We spend a lot of time talking about E15 and on-road applications of ethanols. And when I think about the potential for biofuels in general, we're just scratching the surface right now, from everything from marine fuels. And so all the ships that are moving all kinds of containers across continents can run on things like ethanol. And so we're really optimistic about that. Jets can run on sustainable aviation fuel, which can be from soy or corn, and plastics, bioplastics. I think we talked about, or the Congresswoman talked about, the potential of the bioeconomy. We're really just beginning to scratch the surface. And when I think about what the renewable fuel standard did for the current generation of farmers and the wealth that it created for them and for just rural America in general, I think this next opportunity from marine to SAF and everything in between, it's going to do. You talk about creating opportunities for the next generation. It's going to be in marine. It's going to be in sustainable aviation fuel and that. And so I'm optimistic about that. And Stephen, on a personal note, hopefully there's an opportunity for Flaming Hot Cool Ranch Doritos at some point down the road. Is that? All right, very good.
Wow, you heard it here first, folks. How about that? All right, well, thank you all so much for joining me for our industry expert panel. Really appreciate you sharing your expertise, of course, and a big thank you to Congresswoman Budzinski for joining us earlier and to PepsiCo for partnering with us on such an important summit. Please stick around for networking, and if you'd like to learn more about Punchbowl News events, you can go to punchbowl.news/events. And of course, subscribe to our free morning newsletter at punchbowl.news. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.
All right, thank you.